This is a film which explains how to use KITARO Complex Lab. KITARO Complex Lab is the tool for the intermediate surgeons to practice many kinds of complex cases in cataract surgery. Ruptured zonules management. Settings of KITARO. Take the case of 6 cataract lens with 180 degrees missing zonules from the aluminum pack. Take one lens from it. Put this lens in the hollow of the scleral part. Inject a sufficient volume of water or viscoelastic under the lens through the space of missing zonules. Fix the cornea iris part firmly onto the scleral part. Lay the non-slip mats under and on the drainage box. Place the base plate on it. Put the sponge on the iron ball of right side, left side for deep set eye, and set the eyeball part on it. Then cover the base plate with the mask. Capsulorhexis using a cystotome is difficult. Complete capsulorhexis by changing the instrument to forceps. Make a slightly larger side port for inserting CTR because the cornea of KITARO is relatively hard and the CTR is a little fragile. Be careful in the position and direction of making side port. CTR insertion using injector can also be practiced. Apply 2 or more iris retractors or capsule expanders where the zonules are missing to support capsular bag. Phacoemulsification should be performed while avoiding stress on the zonules. You can practice installing the devices for supporting capsular bag without performing phacoemulsification. IOL transscleral fixation. Settings of KITARO. Take the scleral sheet, detach the paper on it, and attach it tightly to the U-shaped slit of the cornea iris part for IOL transscleral fixation, and do the same on the other slit. Fill the hollow of the scleral part with water or viscoelastic. Fix the cornea iris part with scleral sheets firmly onto the scleral part. Place the sponge on the iron ball of the right side. Left side is deep set eye of the base plate and set the eyeball part onto it. Then cover it with the mask. Instructions for practice. Make scleral flaps or incisions to bury the sutures. Practice various techniques of transscleral suture fixation of IOL. You can also practice the latest technique of sutureless intrascleral IOL fixation. Make 1 or 2 plain corneal incision. Incision slightly larger than human eyes is necessary because KITARO's cornea is slightly harder than the actual human eyes. You cannot practice the actual treatment of the vitreous. You can just practice going through the motions using a vit cutter and cannot practice the management of the eyeball collapse. It is advisable to use 9-0 suture with needle than 10-0 suture because 10-0 suture can easily be snapped during manipulation. At the end of practice, you can check how IOL is fixed to the sclera by observing the cornea iris part from the back. Small pupil management. Settings of KITARO. Put the lens for dry lab in the hollow of the scleral part. Fix the cornea iris part for small pupil management firmly onto the scleral part. Place the sponge on the iron ball of the right eye of the base plate and set this eyeball part onto it. Then cover it with the mask. Instructions for practice. Make 4 side ports with a knife and insert mock iris retractors or true iris retractors. KITARO cornea is a little harder than human eyes. It is necessary to make a little larger side ports than human eyes. Pupil dilation using Malyugin ring cannot be performed. Sphincterotomy can be performed, but the pupil will not enlarge. If you actually make incisions, you will not be able to use it again. For practice purposes, it is advisable to make pseudo-incisions above the pupil. Stretch the iris in diagonal directions using 2 hooks inserted from 2 side ports.